Sheep in press vests outside the offices of Novaya Gazeta in Moscow. The display might look cute, but it's no petting zoo. Instead, it's part of the latest scare campaign against the opposition newspaper. Just a few days before, the journalists received a severed sheep's head and a funeral wreath addressed to the editor-in-chief and to journalist Denis Karatkov. Karatkov has worked for Novaya Gazeta from St. Petersburg since September. Even in this cafe in the center of the city, he worries about surveillance. On the internet, he has been accused of being a traitor. The wave of online hate is connected to his investigation into the dealings of Putin's cohort, Yevgeny Prigozhin. He's allegedly behind the so-called troll factory, which pays people to promote the Kremlin's interests online, and behind a controversial Russian mercenary group.
They put my addresses on the internet, information about my relatives, about members of my family. And they openly discuss online about what to do to me. Can I say that I find that pleasant and enjoyable? Of course I don't. But do I feel a certain satisfaction because these threats mean that I wrote the right thing? Yes.
Karatkov's colleagues in Moscow at their daily planning conference. The newspaper is one of the last truly critical media outlets in Russia. For over 25 years, Novaya Gazeta has been highly regarded for its investigative articles into corruption and human rights abuses. For years now, the journalists here have felt the restrictions on press freedom in the country tighten. 6 of the paper's journalists have paid for their reporting with their lives, including Anna Politkovskaya. She was murdered in 2006. Politkovskaya was known for her critical reporting about the conflict in Chechnya. An element of fear has become part of everyday life at Novaya Gazeta.
Our newspaper has lost as many journalists as if we were reporting during wartime, even though Russia is not at war. It's like working in a minefield.
If you had to choose whether they should send a sheep's head or come without warning and murder someone, then I'd rather have a severed sheep's head every single day.
The head of the Russian Journalists Union, on the other hand, says the bigger picture when it comes to press freedom in Russia is positive.
I think in Russia, both the journalists and the government are still learning how to communicate with each other. And even though there are problems, there is overreach, there are violations that verge on censorship, nevertheless the situation overall is improving. And internationally speaking, the situation in Russia is decent.
But to Denis Karatkov, his work certainly feels dangerous. He sees the risk as a given, a normal part of his investigative reporting that he's willing to accept, though it has meant that even his daughter has been threatened.
I am interested in uncovering stories that you can't see with the naked eye. Things that aren't right on the surface. Dealings that are secret are usually criminal dealings. Of course, when you do this work, you can take on airs of nothing can stop me. But of course I have my limits, and God forbid if my opponents ever sound out what those limits are.
Karatkov won't say what story he's currently working on for Novaya Gazeta, but he's sure of one thing. He'll have to be ready to face more threats.